As we mentioned at the start of the show, we were going to speak to Congressman Tom Osborne about the President Bush speech and also with regards to his legislation, and we were happy to have Congressman Osborne join us on the phone this morning. Congressman, good morning. How are you?
Well, fine. Thank you. It's nice to talk to you.
Well, it's an honor to have you on the program. What did you think of President Bush's speech? Did you think it did enough, or did you think that it was enough that he mentioned the problem at all?
Well, I think a lot of people were surprised that he mentioned steroids in his speech. That's not normally what you hear in a State of the Union address. But the White House had called over to my office earlier in the day and had mentioned that would be in the speech, and naturally I was pleased to hear that, because something I've been concerned about, and I think that probably the President's concern is that he is very knowledgeable, particularly about Major League Baseball, having been an owner of a team, and I think most everyone in athletics has really been dismayed at the lack of attention or the apparent disregard of drug testing in Major League Baseball. And so some of those records, some people at least, feel need to have asterisks beside them. And, of course, with androstenedione, Mark McGwire hit his record number of home runs, and immediately after that, the andro sales skyrocketed. And, of course, a lot of those are sales to rather young kids in junior high school and high school. Now, if you took androstenedione and you're an NCAA athlete or you're an NFL athlete or an Olympic athlete, you would be immediately suspended. But Major League Baseball has paid no attention, and of course, more recently, the designer steroid that was built primarily to escape detection has apparently been used by a number of professional athletes. I hope it hasn't been college athletes, but at least that has become a major threat. So I think the President was recognizing that problem.
And a lot of them have been found out, and some of those athletes that have been using have been subsequently caught and had their medals or had their awards stripped. Congressman Tom Osborne of Nebraska, kind enough to join us this morning. Congressman, you've been on the front line of this issue for more than a year. You offered a bill in the House more than a year ago that would reclassify these drugs as controlled substances that cannot be sold over the counter. The question is, I think a lot of people don't really know where these drugs fit in the whole scheme of things, especially andro, which Mark McGwire was taking. Are they as dangerous as steroids? Do we have the research? Do we know really what these drugs will do to your body if you take them?
Well, I think the evidence is out there. There are really 4 drugs we're concerned about: androstenedione, androstenediol, norandrostenediol, and norandrostenedione. So they're all kind of derivatives of the same drug, and what the research indicates is that they are not technically steroids outside of your body, but once you take them, they act just the same as a steroid. They have the same physiological and psychological impact on the body, and of course, as everyone knows, steroids do accelerate cardiovascular disease at a tremendous rate. They do sometimes cause cancer, and of course, maybe even more importantly and less noticed is the fact that they have tremendous psychological effects: mood swings, depression, some suicide is caused by them, and of course a lot of violence. So they're very harmful drugs, and particularly when you take them as a very young person, they tend to cap your bones. So if you're 14 years old and you're taking some type of steroid or steroid precursor, and you're hoping to get enhanced performance, you'll find that your growth is capped prematurely, and of course you have a lot of unfortunate physiological side effects. So we think this is something that needs to be regulated just like any other drug, and available only on a prescription and not bought over the counter.
Gene Upshaw of the NFL Players Union spoke out against, or not against what the president said, but in response to what the president said, saying, hey, not our problem. hey, we fixed it. We're steroid-free. Don't be looking at us, which I thought was really the wrong tactic to take. Instead of going on the defensive, he had a marvelous opportunity to go on the offensive with the president against these performance-enhancing drugs, and I think he blew that. Did you get that sense? Did you hear his comments, and what was your response to them?
No, I really didn't hear Gene Upshaw's comments. I think probably what he was reacting to is the fact that the truly irresponsible group has been Major League Baseball, and I felt the same way about the NFL for a number of years. We about 1984 started testing in college as soon as we had the technology available, and I felt the NFL drug their feet for a number of years, to some degree turned their head even when they had the technology, and then I think they finally got aggressive, and I think they're really trying to do what they can, particularly after the Lyle Alzado case and some of those very unfortunate cases came forward. And so I think they are trying, but still, there's no question that some NFL players probably were involved in the designer steroid that escaped detection, but NFL for years has banned the steroid precursors like androstenedione, and of course Major League Baseball only recently has even began to think about addressing the problem, and it looks like they don't have a lot of teeth in what they're trying to do.
No, most certainly not. The penalties are laughable. The fact that they even got a program in there, though, was sort of a minor miracle unto itself, and how long this collective bargaining agreement lasts, I'm not really sure, but at the end of it, I'm sure that they'll probably try to toughen up those standards, especially in response to the response that they got after the way that came down. Let me turn the tables here and ask you about something of which you're very familiar, not only this subject, but also something which you spent a great number of years involved with, and that would be Cornhusker football. First question, just out of the box, is: did you think, your own personal opinion, did you think that the firing of Frank Solich was deserved, or did you think he was a victim of something else?
Well, I think that Frank's dismissal is really symptomatic of things going on in intercollegiate athletics that are probably, I would say, not real sound. There's a guy that won, I think, 9.7 games a year for 6 years, played in a national championship game, was number 2 in the country 4 years ago, and has by most measures done well. I think he averaged almost 10 wins a year and lost about 3. So most football people around the country, if you look at the won-loss record, are shaking their head. He was not involved in a major recruiting scandal, or was not abusing his players or doing anything like that. So obviously the bar has been set very high here, and apparently the new athletic director felt that in looking at the program that he didn't like the direction it was going. He felt that they weren't going to be competitive for the national championship or something like that. So it's a little hard for me to be dispassionate, because Frank worked for me for 19 years and was a very loyal, faithful guy. He had chances to leave Nebraska, and he didn't. And so it was tough to watch. And probably even harder to watch was the fact that Frank had restructured his staff, and of the 9 assistants he had, I believe 7 of the 9 were former players and former coaches that I knew a lot about, and now almost all of them are gone except for Turner Gill. So to see that massive change after a 10-3 season was again difficult to watch. I don't want to get into saying who's right, who's wrong. I really don't know all of the ins and outs of the story, but I guess as a former football coach, you certainly get concerned when that standard is that high.
Well, and that's one of the guys that set it that high was you. As far as college football careers go, I mean, you are you have few peers in that realm. Did you think that the university? Do you think that they're embarrassed now after the coaching search and after offering the job to 4 coaches, having them all turn them down, and then end up really settling for Coach Callahan, who just come off of a disastrous performance with the Oakland Raiders? Do you think that the school is embarrassed by what happened?
Well, I haven't detected any feeling of embarrassment by the officials involved. They seem to be quite excited about Coach Callahan. They have pointed out repeatedly that, well, USC, they ended up with Pete Carroll, and Pete was the 3rd or 4th or 5th choice. I don't know what it was, and sometimes these searches take a while, and sometimes they do. So it was a very long period here, though, of I think roughly 40 days, where University of Nebraska had an unsettled coaching situation. And I think that was particularly tough in this state because we had 40 years without any major break, and had probably been one of the most seamless programs in the country. And then to experience that massive turnover so suddenly after a 10-3 year was it has caused a lot of uproar around the state. And I guess now the proof will be in the pudding. If Coach Callahan does a great job and they win a whole lot of football games, and I'm assuming that people will say, well, this was okay. And on the other hand, if it doesn't turn out that way, I'm sure there will continue to be some division here.
Well, if it turns out okay, then I'll take back half the bad things I said about him. Congressman Tom Osborne from the great state of Nebraska, kind enough to join us on the program. Thank you so much, sir, for having you on the show. It truly is an honor to speak with you this morning. And take care and good luck with you and your future endeavors.
All right. Thank you. It's nice to talk to you.